Well, wouldn't you know it? It seems as though something has come up that's going to keep me from being able to engage as much as I'd like to in the recent topic on my channel of secular morality. At least I was hoping to be able to do that up until Monday when I go back to work. But something else has come up that needs to be attended to, nothing terrible or anything like that, but I don't think I'm going to be able to stay engaged. That having been said, I have several videos that have been uploaded and still are set to private, and a couple that have been recorded and have yet to be uploaded. And I'm going to go ahead and do that over the next couple of days. Even in spite of the fact that I've made some clarifications since that point, and I'm certainly willing to always go back to the drawing board when new facts or ideas come to light, which thankfully you have all presented to me, and I very much appreciate that. Because I think, as you probably know by now, I'm fine to let my mistakes stand on the record. And so I think it's still informative, because I think even by seeing some of those videos, people may contribute something that they might not have otherwise contributed. So I think it's all positive in the end. And so I'm going to do that. There's a couple of them that may come with a trigger warning, because I get a little more direct in my language than I even have been when it comes to these topics. And keep in mind, of course, I'm on a quest as much as anybody. I understand that this is such a deep, delicate, important, difficult topic that has been ruminated over by some of the greatest minds that have ever been. And I'm just hoping to, even if nothing else, make some sense of it in my own mind. If not, reach out to other people and see if we can do a, some sort of a... I'm trying to think of the terminology that they use when they try to solve complex problems by gathering computing power, right? I'm drawing a blank. The human version of that, right? Anyway, so I thought before I go, I would comment on a couple of the comments that were left on my most recent video, and just hopefully, a little bit more interaction before I go. And I will try to drop in and out from time to time where I can. I just can't promise much, because sort of everything changed today. So without any more delay, Mitch Crane had said a couple of things that were interesting to me. He's challenging my notion that that when we make value judgments, that we're trying to universalize or make an an absolute statement about something. He says that we don't always. It would be silly to go around saying that John Wayne Gacy did some very bad things, but that's just my opinion. I feel like, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's my perception, but it seems to me like people get very strong in their language, as though they're trying to add or define a characteristic in something that is outside of themselves. And again, I think it's really too bad that I didn't engage in some more contentious issues before this and get people riled up, and get a whole bunch of that sort of objectively, universally, absolutely speak going. I think that would be helpful in this instance, because I think that's actually what Stefan Molyneux was referring to back in the video that I originally linked, The Bullshit of Moral Relativism, because it's a difference in how we speak and how we act, or how we say we believe and then how we act in society. In other words, you could say John Wayne Gacy, was immoral and he was wrong. But really, if morality is only subjective, really all you could say is, I don't like John Wayne Gacy and I don't like what he did. Because to say that he was wrong or he was immoral or he was a monster, those are all, I think, attempting to add some sort of a definition or define a characteristic in him that exists outside yourself. I think the language, once again, betrays something, right? It betrays... It is a truth claim, because when you say it, you're attempting to universalize it by sort of asserting that other people should accept and agree with that statement. I'll leave that there. And then he went on to say, this is really key. It's the people who claim that there is a universal objective morality and that they know what it is who worry me the most. These people can run roughshod over me because they have the authority and it comes from some mysterious universal source. On the other hand, if morality is an agreement among rational, like-minded people with a mutual interest in their own well-being, then that's something I can work with. That's why we've gotten where we are and why we call it progress. We have mutual interest and we work by consensus. No, I don't think those people could run roughshod over you, because the onus would be on them to demonstrate what that universal source is, that mysterious universal source is, and that universal source would be, by definition, available to everyone. They don't hold some magical, unique, special knowledge. The burden of evidence is on the person making the claim. If they claim to have a source of objective ethics that can be universalized, they would have to demonstrate that, and then that would be open to you for scrutiny, just like any sort of math principle or anything like that would be. I think anybody who's claiming to have any kind of an authority in some mysterious universal source, yeah, I would be highly skeptical of those people too. This should be an empirical, rational, reasoned position that can be analyzed by anyone and called bullshit if it's bullshit, right? So, I sort of agree with you and disagree with you. And then Tessa Bain said some things that I disagree with. You can get objectivity when you come at anything from a certain stance, but there is no truly objective anything. I'm not sure what that sentence means, but to say there's no truly objective anything, it will always depend on the looker and where they're standing. Well, to the looker, right? But would we agree or disagree that there is an objective universe? If we accept that, right? That it doesn't matter, that there are some things that are objective regardless of the looker, and then there's the perception of the looker. Everything is opinion as it relates to likes and dislikes, which is what morals ultimately are. Well, if that's the case, then we need to be honest about our language then. I don't like what John Wayne Gacy did. Not what John Wayne Gacy did was wrong, because that is a truth claim. That is attempting to define a characteristic that exists outside yourself and make a value statement about that. If everything is opinion as it relates to likes and dislikes, which is essentially what morals are, then we need to be honest about that and stop calling things right and wrong. If there objectively is no right and wrong, we should banish those terms from our vocabulary. They're a helpful opinion that isn't bred out because it happened to be good for the continuation of the species. Evolutionarily speaking, in other words, walking down the road killing everyone you see is therefore objectively wrong, but there's nothing stopping you from doing so if you happen to be the type of person that wants to. Well, if nothing is objectively true, if there's no objective anything, then you can't even say therefore objectively wrong. I'm not sure. I understand the evolutionary aspect to all of this. That all makes sense to me, as does the sort of emergent property of consciousness and or society. I would sort of accept all that as at least being a component of morality. Here's where I disagree, though, probably the most strongly. Objective wouldn't require just a minority, but a totality. Everyone would have to think the exact same thing about any given from any possible stance to find an objective truth, lest it be simply an opinion. It doesn't matter how many agree. If it's less than 100% of all possible onlookers in any place at any time, it isn't objective. That's not true. It's just not true. You could have somebody who says 2 plus 2 equals 5. That doesn't make math any less objective because that person's wrong, right? The universal principle doesn't mean that that it has to be universally accepted to be objective. There are objective truths out there. I mean, people argued about the makeup of our solar system for a very long time. Just because people disagreed didn't mean there wasn't an objective truth and that we couldn't get there, right? These are some of the arguments that we have with theists all the time. It's amazing to me that it becomes convoluted when we're dealing with secular ethics, but I think it has something to do with the doublespeak of how we govern ourselves. And that's a trigger warning for another video that I make. where I talk about that, because I think that the key to moral relativism, and I know I said I'd stop using that word, but I think it's actually, in this instance, it's more descriptive than just simply subjective morality. That moral relativism is actually sort of in existence to quell the dissonance that exists within us when we hold certain principles and then we acquiesce to letting them fall by the wayside, whether through some sort of self-serving self-interest or convenience or subservience to the tyranny of the majority or some sort of might makes right argument. That's in another video. Even a new term wouldn't really help, because it's simply not now and most certainly never will be possible to find an objective truth. Well, that's an absolute statement in and of itself. How can you, I mean, there's I would say, a greater burden of evidence on a statement like that than there is on someone like me saying I think the potential might exist for there being such a thing. Because I'm not making an absolute statement. I've said in videos before, I don't know. I sure hope so, because I don't know how you... Yeah, well, let's not go on a tangent. We're simply animals, and trying to state that there is some objective truth or moral seems to be trying to pretend that that isn't the case. That indeed we're better than other animals, as religions try to say. Different, yes. Better, no. Well, it depends on what your... I mean, there's value statements again. These are definitional statements. You're defining a characteristic of our species, and you're not calling it an opinion. It's the language, it's the language, it's the language. It depends on your value judgments on different and better, right? Because, okay, let's just say different. We can all agree on that. That's objectively true. That we are different, that we are not the same. It's funny because we have all these, laws of non-contradiction and laws of, I can't remember the one that I'm actually trying to think of right now. Apologize for the clunky nature of this video. But then when we get into these discussions, they kind of go away. Everybody is like, no, there's no real anything. It's not helpful to try to discuss these things. One way in which we're different is that we can clearly rationalize. We're rational beings. So I would argue that, I don't think that probably makes us better, but it makes us better equipped. And it's what makes us capable. It's what makes us moral agents. It's what makes morality exist in the first place. So that different is a very, very important different. Better? I don't know. I don't think so. Better? I don't know. Better at some things, worse at others. We could argue about the eye, right? The human eye or whatever. So yeah, just different, but different in a very important way when it comes to this discussion. I'm going to leave it there. If I get a chance, I may, I'll try to engage as much as I can. I once again very much appreciate everybody, and most importantly, I appreciate everyone bearing with me, because I realize that I'm a rank amateur at all of this, and I appreciate your help, and I appreciate the disagreements, and I appreciate the very few agreements that I've gotten. I appreciate Draken. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care.